We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started and.
Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
It is my honor to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
In America, the impossible is what we do best. There is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. We will restore America's promise and we will rebuild the nation that we love. We will stand bravely, dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours. The golden age of America begins right now. America's decline is over. We will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth. I am with you. I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. The golden age of America begins right now.
And so do we. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode number 99 of Just Our Take. We're glad to have you here tonight. I'm John. This is my co-host, Dave. How you doing tonight, Dave?
I'm doing great. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Just Our Take. As the title implies, this is our opinion. You may or may not agree. If you, that's okay. Just throw some comments in the chat. If you feel like we got it wrong, educate us. We're not too proud. John, there's some fun stuff. I was going to ask. There's a lot of things to talk about tonight. I was going to ask you if you've been following Bernie and AOC on the road show.
I try not to.
You're missing.
I know they're out there, but I just can't stop. I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm watching a grandfather and his granddaughter. It's truly heartwarming, by the way, to see them working together. But I'm sure that you have more interesting things teed up than that. But
the one really interesting thing I thought I had teed up tonight, it's not in the mix. Somehow it didn't make it over, and so I'm really bummed about that. The big intro was gone.
That's why you need to give Scott a raise. See, then
I'm telling you, this guy's a clown. Whoever put these things over, you know. Anyway, I do have a couple other things we can get into. I will tell you that we're going to tell a story tonight. Things are happening. I know that the frustration has been, man, it seems like nothing's happening. There are a lot of things happening, and I think that we just need to keep our eyes open, our ears open, use a very discerning, keen eye to what it is that we're seeing and hearing out there, and always listen for the hidden messages. How about that?
I love it. I'm
going to start off with a clip from our boss. Not our boss, but the guy who's currently running the show.
Today, we take a very historic action that was 45 years in the making. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all. Today, we take a very historic action that...
So historic, we're going to do it twice. No,
I've got another. It's the preamble. It's very important. I think you have to take. You had to take yours down. It's a feature.
I would like to dissolve the $10 billion National Department of Education created by President Carter and turn schools back to the local school districts where we built the greatest public school system the world has ever seen. Boom. I think I can make a case that the decline in the quality of public education began when federal aid became federal interference.
He's exactly right.
Okay.
Now, John, he said, if you were listening carefully, it's back in the 80s, it was a $10 billion program. What would you guess it is today?
Oh, 11 billion.
At least 11 billion. It's almost $280 billion today. And 80 billion, 79 point something, almost 80 billion is discretionary. Discretionary. Spend it as you think you need to, however you want to spend it.
So I did see some documentation on the spending, and a lot of that spending is actually, in fact, most of it is on administrative. So in other words, all the bosses. Not that much of it gets down to the classrooms.
So there's a big chunk of it on discretionary, and that's used for like Pell Grants and student loans, and it funds a part of the scholastic business that is it's non-discretionary. So it's money that is required to be spent to enable young people to go to school. So that's required. But the 80 billion that is discretionary.
I'm going to interrupt you because here's the thing. In the US, the average dollar per student is $17,500.
Yep.
And the average homeschooler is $1,000. And yet the test scores are 100% higher for the homeschoolers than the standard or traditional schoolers.
Well, look, you're not going to get an argument from me that says
So the money's not
just
making it to the
spending
child,
money.
is what I'm saying. The money's
Just-
not making it to the child.
Well, right. And you could also make the argument that Pell Grants and student loans for college have ballooned over the last 30, 40 years because government-backed education loans are they're recourse loans, meaning you can't not pay them. You can't walk away from them. You can't, I don't know if they follow you after you die, but you can't claim bankruptcy and that's it. You got to pay it no matter what. So those loans are recourse loans, and because of that, that's why people believe that the cost of education has just skyrocketed. How much money over the last 40, 50 years has been funded to the Department of Education? You'll never
Trillions.
over $3 trillion. And what you have seen over the past 40, 50 years, as you just see a steady decline in our test results, the abilities of our kids who actually finish school. It's just continuing to decline. So Ron Reagan said it shortly after Congress passed it in 79. Ron Reagan said it in the 80s. Hey, this thing needs to go away. It's not working. Here we are many years later, and finally, the Department of Education is on its way to being dismantled.
We actually should have had producer Marie on here to talk to us directly about it, because, as I know, she's probably the only one that was in education. I mean, I went to school, but I certainly didn't teach.
Well,
so it's
and John, there's some concerns that immediately people have, like, oh my God, if they go away, then what's going to happen? What's the impact? Okay, so what's the one thing that you think could be impacted, the federal Department of Education going away? Like what?
Oh man, his internet is terrible tonight, isn't it?
Oh, it is? Are you having a hard time hearing?
You keep on freezing, and we're not hearing complete sentences out of you. It's almost as if you went to, never mind. We'll start in trouble there.
Don't get yourself a mark. Is it really that bad?
Every once in a while you cut out. And that was, I think you were just getting ready to make an important point and you cut out.
Was it my body language? Was it my hand signals? Okay, the question is, with the dismantling of the Department of Education, what is the one thing you think could be the biggest thing at risk? What's at risk?
Counts.
I was hoping you would guess, but all right, I'll pretend you guessed wrong. Wrong, John. Actually, as it turns out, the Department of Education does nothing to do with setting curriculum. I can't believe you didn't know that. Actually, curriculum is still set in the states by each of the school districts. You can choose to align to federal standards or things that are considered standard across the country, but the Department of Education actually has nothing to do with that. So then you might say, oh my gosh, all the student lunches, and how will we account for that? Well, as it turns out, a lot of those are already accounted for by other government agencies. Well, what about the students with disabilities? Turns out many of those are handled already by HHS. Okay, well then let's go back to the loans for a minute. What about all the money that we need to give to college students so they can pay for inflated college costs? Well, actually, those could go to the SB, Small Business Association, can go ahead and start out.
So the SBA can do what now? Say that again.
And how to think.
I'm gonna end up doing this show solo. Oh, there you are.
I could reset myself if you want, and by reset myself I mean turn my router back on and off and on.
So let me just toss this back out to you though. I have read, and I have on authority, good authority, that the library curriculum is actually pushed out and set by Department of Education. They actually give books. They send them out. Oh, you need your new books for the year? Here they are. And they send out 1,000 books or 500 books or whatever. And they don't, the librarians are excited to get those books. And that's how we end up with some of these books that are read before the school boards, and the school boards are embarrassed. Because some guy with an agenda at the Department of Education sends out that book list. And and here you go. Here's your $9,000 worth of new books for the year.
And what is aside from reducing the size of the staff, taking the money and putting it back in the hands of the states, because by the way, the funding is it's not that some of the money is going to go away. It's just going to be spent directly with the states instead of the bureaucrats. 50% of the staff is the federal staff goes away. The money comes to the states, and there's a hook. No funding for DEI programs. You're not going to teach kids that they're victims or they're victimizers. Instead, you're going to teach them math and science and history. Pretty exciting.
Well, I mean, that's pretty good. The other thing is not all of the, I mean, they say they're going to dismantle the Department of Education. What they're really doing is paring it back to just a guidance, no longer a directive. So that's going to be much better. The other fact that we have said, and we've said it many times here, is that when Jimmy Carter brought the Department of Education in 1979, we were number one in the world for education. We've dropped down to 74, 75, something like that now. Not good.
It depends on which discipline you look at, but we're not anywhere near number one. And there are other countries that are investing. They're investing also. They're doing it differently though, and the quality of the output is really good, and we're continuing to decline. My last fun fact that I wanted to share on the funding part. Can you guess how much money is owed by students, student loan debt currently that is being managed by the Department of Education?
2.8 trillion.
Well, that's the first time you guessed over, but it is an astounding number. It 1.8 trillion, 2.8, 1.8. I mean, what's another trillion between friends? Still, you think about the amount of debt, and you can't. And I know the previous administration wanted to wipe it all away, which you can't do. $1.8 trillion, incredible.
There's a local school district here that the school board went and voted. It's a 3-person school board. They went and voted to make the school week a 4-day work week instead of school week instead of a 5-day. And the parents are up in arms about it. Now, some parents, I'm sure, maybe that's like, hey, cool. But a lot of them are saying, what am I going to do about childcare? What am I going to do about, to and from? Our life is scheduled around the 5-day school week right now. And by the way, it's not like our students are hitting it out of the park right now and can take another day off. And then the other part that Mrs. John came up with, and this was really well thought out, when it comes to sports, how many sports are on Friday? Pretty much football, that's it. Right? So all the other sports are midweek. So if you're a baseball team and you're traveling to, especially in a place like Montana, where it could be a day's drive to your opponent, you go and you drive there, you drive back. That's a lost day of school. So now you're only going to school 3 days a week. And during baseball season, you could travel for 2 games that week. And again, that's just one. You could, if you have the volleyball team, you have the softball team, all of these sports, they're usually you have to miss a few periods or the entire day, depending on what it is and where you're going. So the parents are outraged, and the school board said, hey, we put out a notice that we were going to vote on it. Again, it was only 3 people.
We voted.
And so they come out and they said that's the way it is. And so now the parents have gotten together and they're suing not just the school board, but the individuals on the board.
Well, that's the thing, right? If you're out of touch with your local customers, right? Parents are the students and the parents are the customers. If you're out of touch, you don't understand what is the impact of this decision. Now, it may not be a bad idea to have a 4-day classroom school week if the 5th day is used for something valuable. But if it's just, hey, parents, on Fridays, your kid no longer has school. Well, did something magical change between Monday? First off, did something magical change between Monday and Thursday where suddenly the education is going to be that much better that we don't need 5 days in the week? Maybe that happened. But if not, what is the value and the benefit to the student?
I'm going to defer to our resident expert and our producer. There are many studies that scores improve with a 4-day work week. Now, let me ask this. Who did the study? And were they looking to get paid for 5 days while they work for 4? Again, I'm not questioning our producer. I'm questioning the study, and I don't know anything about it. So I've heard similar things. I've also heard that that the 3-month off for summer destroys the kids' learning, and they have to spend the first month or so reteaching everything. And I think I may have heard that from Marie herself. So there's a lot of things about education that I don't claim to know, but I do question everything these days because everything has been.
You have, but you also have to say, and I'll go back to what the point I was going to make a few minutes ago is, let's say you've changed what's happening in the classroom. It's more experiential learning. It's project-based learning. And all of a sudden, it's not that you don't have a 5th day of school, but maybe that 5th day is used doing things versus, hearing a lecture or reading a textbook, but instead you're physically doing something that relates directly back to what you read or what you heard in a lecture. Now, all of a sudden you're putting some, to practical use. Well, that makes it more real. And those kinds of learning experiences are, they're a little scary. And the schools that my kids went to, they were afraid to do that. It's 5 days a week. It's early to late, and you get 10 minutes recess and a little bit of a lunch, and then you have hours of homework. Yep. Anyways, we're due for some changes.
Yep. So I'm sure that there's going to, as this rolls out, I'm interested to see how this works, how the cuts in the Department of Education, cuts and or dismantling. I'm interested to see how that works out. I'm, based on everything I know and all of the studies that I have been digging into, this wasn't a snap decision, although that's what the Democrats are going to say. It was a snap decision. He pulled it out of the top of his head. You see how I changed that one? And that's it. He just made it up on the fly, and he's a reactive. He's flying by the seat. No, that's not it. I guarantee that they have spent years not just figuring out whether this would work, but also figuring out how to make it work and how to dismantle it. That's my guess. That's my take. And with that, I want to take you to another story that's rather interesting. And it goes back to Producer Marie, we got to have you on pregame. I mean, seriously, there's times where I think that if we'd had you on pregame, we could have told you when exactly to put your post out there about all of these protesters. I think, let me go back to the beginning of the comments, because these are very well placed. Like this one. GPS data analysis reveals 84% of the devices in this crowd had shown up at 9 or more other protests, including Antifa, BLM, events pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian demonstrations, and Kamala Harris's events. Well,
weird. That's so
Dave,
strange.
Could you read this one for us? Do you want me to blow it up a little bit more?
You're talking about DC Drano's comments? Yeah, I can read that. It is not a coincidence that just as Trump and Elon started disassembling the USAID money laundering machine, we now see organized violence against Tesla in the United States. I've got a good clip for you, by the way. USAID funded deep state regime overthrow operations across the world. I think now they're using those same funds and tactics to try and stop the Trump, cutting them off. Start arresting the culprits. I agree, by the way. Okay, I see the top upper face of an Obama.
Let me scroll that. I don't know that there's any more there. That
okay. So we're using, I think we suspected USAID was making its way through the NGOs to people that are paid to protest. We've heard people saying they're paid to protest before, right? I share with you that people that I know that I'm pretty close to actually sent me the text messages they received where they were offered money to go, and actually they were offered money to go to a campaign rally for Kamala Harris, but also offered money to go and hold a sign at a protest. Not the same person, by the way. Sorry. So I don't think we're sounds like there's more receipts to actually show how the money flowed.
Oh, you want to hear about how the money flowed?
Or about
Maybe
how the
you
money
could read
flowed.
this. Maybe you could read this.
Okay. Barack Obama was using USAID to pretend to send money to a country for aid, in quotes, and instead laundered it to the Cayman Islands. What? Get out of here. Let me keep reading. He would then use the money to fund and train a rent a riot for protest to overthrow governments. Sound familiar? Mike Benz on Joe Rogan, a scandal during the Obama USAID era. We were running a number of rogue USAID operations in Cuba at the time. It's simply showing the American people where your tax dollars are going and how these things are structured in order to systematically fool you and fool Congress and fool the White House. USAID pumped $1.2 billion in, and we sponsored these activist groups and use activist groups and the civil society organizations to learn how to use Facebook, learn how to use Twitter, learn how to use hashtags, learn how to coordinate street protests so that everyone knows where to go, what street to show up on, what kinds of slogans to know, to use in order to create the pro-democracy predicate for it.
So I'm just going to leave it at that because there's a lot. I mean, it keeps going on. But the interesting thing here is they've actually traced the money. And it's not just someone's speculation. They've traced that money, and then they're tracing the money coming back. The other thing, apparently, Doge has found. Let me find this. I'll just bring this one up. Why not? We'll put this one in the little boxeroonie over there, and this is an Instagram, so it's not as fun when we get to play this one. But
by the way, on that last one, I'm not doubting it, but I would like to see the money went from here to here to here and to ultimately to the protesters.
Well, part of that you won't see. They do show it going over to the Caymans. They do see it being drawn out. They're not going to show it to the individual protesters, but they do have there's a gap in there. Then there's other places where these protesters are being paid through one of the NGOs that are associated. Well, let me just put this one up here for you. And I'll tell you why that is for just a second. Because this clip will tell you a little bit more about that. Put this one in here. Again, I apologize. It is in Instagram, so it's harder for us to play them clean.
That are untraceable. The budget line is blank, and they're worried about your Bitcoin. 5 trillion, untraceable. No idea where it went and how it was spent. A $5 trillion blank check. Social Security sent out $72 billion in bad checks. Guess who resigned last night? The head of Social Security. Right when Doge asked Michelle King to have a seat because she was about to get canned, she says, "You can't fire me because I quit." And the press is acting like this isn't suspicious.
You may assert there's no waste in the Pentagon. You may assert there's no waste in
Stephen,
Treasury.
I'm not
you may
asserting,
assert there's no waste in HHS.
Stephen, I don't think anyone.
Then why are you not celebrating these cuts? If you agree there is waste, if you agree there is abuse, if you agree there is corruption, why are you not celebrating the cuts, the reforms that are being instituted? Every day that no action is taken, the entire
Stephen, let's calm
salaries
down.
of American workers that are taxed disappear forever.
Stephen, let's calm down.
This is not.
We're not having a debate.
There's no reason
about whether there are
you are
places.
clearly trying to debate me, and I will be it as I want to be about the fact that we are saving Americans billions of dollars.
So you see how it's interesting. It's very interesting tactic that she uses. She can't argue the point, so she says, "Stephen, calm down, calm down." She starts attacking him personally. No, I'm not going to calm down. You know what? There's $5 trillion written on blank checks, and we're finding these things. $5 trillion? Are you kidding me?
You should be out.
What's the annual deficit?
About $2 right now, but the government's spending about $7.5 to almost $8 trillion right now. So, but still, $5 trillion is missing. We're so comfortable with trillion. It's $1 trillion.
But that's $5 trillion in untraceable because there's no
coding.
detail line on there. And then there's 2.6 trillion from the Pentagon. Who knows how much is missing in Social Security? They don't know yet because they haven't dug in yet.
We don't know yet. Marie makes another point here about Michelle Obama. She just lost her paycheck. She did. I didn't know it was tied to the garden though, but she did lose. She was being paid, John, $122,000 a month since 2009. Which I'm just saying that's $120,000 a month. I don't know what services she was providing to the U.S. Does the first lady? Okay, I'm ignorant. Does the first lady get a paycheck? I don't remember that being part of the contract.
Not normally.
Okay, well, this one did. $122,000 a month since 2000. That's a lot of money.
I'm going to guess that trend probably started during HRC's days.
Very, very likely. Very likely. Hey, so speaking of, my brain is damaged because I'm mad at the people that are investigating fraud, waste, and abuse, and it's not okay. And the billionaires have to stop it. And we're going to go after the one right now who's on TV. This guy's got a few comments.
The objective of the article was to describe what you would do to drive Elon's stock price down or break Elon. Now I'm actually writing it up as a plan.
Okay, so he's going to write it up as a plan. Hello, you've lost your mind. That he's doing what he thinks is right. This is somebody who's carrying the water of the cabal, and they've done such an effective job getting people to think that that they're on the right side of things. It just never ceases to amaze me.
Well, I do have. It's again, the whole thing, and we talked a bit about it last week. And I don't want to be completely repetitive, but some of it, as more information comes out, it just kind of lends itself to being a little repetitive. Are you playing something, Dave?
I am. It's still going on. Just saying. She did her little part.
Okay.
I love these videos. I don't love them that they're happening, but I love the fact that people are like, let's make her famous. Yeah. So.
Well, unfortunately, it's another Instagram video, so I've got to wait for it to come back around because you know how they just play and there's no way to rewind it. It's kind of
Instagram.
It's kind of Instagrammy. Yeah. So it's another Mark Zuckerberg program. It wasn't always, but it is now. So, but there are more pieces of information. Let me find another one while I'm letting that one roll out. So what I'm digging into, Dave and I, you and I were talking about this before the show, but it's just very interesting that these people who were all about the environment, and they were all about, you've got to get a Tesla. You have to get a Tesla. And that was like their badge of honor.
Yeah.
Because if you get a Tesla, that means that you're doing something for this country. And you're doing something to save the world. And if you're not willing to do that, then you are a racist, homophobic Nazi.
Yeah, you're a bad person.
I said that word. Sorry.
And yeah, you got to strike. And John, look, in Washington and in California, I think it's 2035 technically before things. You were told, I was told, I would not be able to buy a gas combustion engine after 2035 in the state of Washington. In California is the same way. Think about it. Like, it's just incredible because we're going to save the environment. We're going to save the planet. But today, if you're a Tesla.
So California repealed that, by the way. That was put out there and then it was dropped. But now they're burning them. They're lighting them on fire. Yeah. What do you think that does to the environment? I mean, they're starting these fires of these, lithium batteries and all of the plastics and all of those other things that are burning and putting things into the environment. What do you think that's doing to this precious air that, and by the way, I'm not a fan of litter or smog or any of that stuff. So don't get me wrong. I am a huge opponent of people that scream and yell. And there's a funny picture, and I could probably find it to pull it up. There's a funny picture over in Puget Sound, the Seattle area. They were getting ready to tow an offshore oil rig out through the sound and off the shore. And as they were doing it, all these people came out to protest it. And they all paddled out in their plastic canoes made by petroleum.
Which is, yeah, exactly.
These people.
If you guys really cared about the environment, you'd be on like wood planks right now or something, but you would not be on plastic.
So we'll come back to more of that in just a second, but I want to share this with you. More about the fun stuff that Doge is doing.
It's hard to really grasp the scale of this because we process at the IRS about the same amount of data as a mid-sized bank. And a typical mid-sized bank will have somewhere between 1 and 200 people in IT, and they'll have an operations and maintenance budget in like the $20 million a year range. We have 8,000 people in IT, and our operations and maintenance budget is $3.5 billion a year. I don't really know why yet, but I will tell you that 80% of that budget goes to contractors and licenses. We cannot perform the basic functions of tax collection without paying a toll to all these contractors. We really have to figure out how to get out of this hole. We're in a really deep hole right now. How do we turn this around? We have a $3.5 billion operations and maintenance budget. We have a $3.7 billion modernization effort within IT. That's a lot of budget, and we are way beyond any reasonable cost for what you would expect of a private company for this.
What has been the biggest surprise? You, again, Secretary Bessent's, been in the business world as well, but he heard it from me. But when you first saw this, what was the biggest surprise that you found at that Department of Treasury?
I would say it's the disconnect between leadership and the people actually doing the work is a big one. I would say that it doesn't take a lot, just somebody who cares to solve these problems. You find contracts that are 10, 20, 30, $50 million, and you just ask, like, why are we doing this? And it's just like, I don't know. And then you cancel it, and then nothing happens. It's just inertia has just taken over.
We don't need that one. Okay.
Inertia has taken over.
Inertia has taken over. We just pay him. We just renew the contracts. John, he just threw two numbers out there that just add up to about $7 billion a year. $7 billion a year, big number. If you think about many taxpayers who are paying between $5,000 and $6,000 a year in federal taxes, that $7 billion is 1 million, almost 200,000 taxpayers that could have no taxes if you just get rid of that and then modernize it, and then all this, and maybe you don't need to have $7 billion. You can have a $20 million budget like he talked about in the private sector.
Well, and they keep screaming that, you don't want Elon Musk digging around our private information because he doesn't have a clearance. Well,
have a security clearance. He has a top secret security clearance. By God, he makes the rockets for NASA. But the suggestion that he somehow can't be trusted to dig into how we're spending our money is nothing but a smokescreen to hide the corruption and the wasteful spending that has occurred there. And I am personally offended at the left's continued references to 19-year-olds and 21-year-olds in there doing work. There are 19-year-olds who have won the Medal of Honor defending this country. Just because you're 19 doesn't mean you're some child who can't be trusted. It is offensive. And if you're 19 years old out there, 20 years old, and you're serving this country, by God, your service matters. Keep serving. We thank you for that.
Ooh, I love his passion, and I agree wholeheartedly.
Listen, I'll tell you. I mean, when I was in the Navy, I joined the Navy at 18 years old, and they threw me right in, and I was working on some very, very sophisticated pieces of electronics. I had to go through about 3 weeks of just security. When I'm talking about security, they taught us how to be safe and secure and how not to fall for a Russian spy girlfriend and I mean, I'm not kidding. That's absolutely true. Hey, if you're in a bar overseas and some girl sits down next to you and starts talking to you, and guess what? She doesn't really like you. She likes what you know.
Exactly.
I mean, all kinds of stuff. But by the time I was 20 years old, I had my hands in and working on and with some of the most sophisticated and top secret pieces of information that you can imagine anybody working on. I just have to be careful with how I say it and when I say it. But and a lot of the people that I know were in the same age group doing the same kind of stuff. And across our country, thank God we have a volunteer military that allows great people to jump in and do exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah, and I love his passion around it. How dare you, you idiots? You're insulting these fine young people who have stepped up to serve their country. By the way, I don't know if the 19 and 20-year-olds in the Doge team are being paid, but Elon's not getting paid. And by the way, I don't know what you could pay him. Like, he doesn't need the money. That we forget that, right? Every time someone pokes and says, "Oh, he's another billionaire,"
yeah,
enriching himself. By the way, I have a couple thoughts on that. It comes from the AOC Bernie thing that I'll share. But I did find this playbook, and I wanted to share this playbook because I think it's very important to understand exactly how this works. So if you haven't seen this before, the money goes from the Democrat. This says Democrats, but honestly, it should just say the cabal, because there's other Republicans that are part of the cabal as well, to the NGO, who then takes that money and campaign funnels it right back to the politician. So in case you're wondering, there's your playbook.
It's not that sophisticated. It's just well hidden, and it's been going on for decades. And one of the clips that I was going to start off the show with, right, was it talks about how this has been going on for decades and how evil and corrupt all of this is. I will find that video and we'll play it probably on Wednesday. But how evil and corrupt this is, and how the rescuing of America has been planned for decades. We first had John F. Kennedy come in to try to rescue America. He got vocal about it. He was going to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind. And a few days later, he was no longer. He was followed by the next real patriot, which was Reagan, who came in and tried real hard to make some changes. He had some personal tragedy in his life, and then he himself they tried to unalive him, if you remember, and they came really close. I mean, he was in the hospital for days and was literally very, very close. And then, come Donald Trump, and they tried to unalive him as well. I mean, they are this is a very sophisticated, very deeply entrenched, worldwide group of people. And when you hear finally how deep it goes and how widespread the tentacles are, it will blow your mind. But we will get that for you. And I want to say that one of the reasons the question keeps coming up, I want to see arrests. I want them now. I'm impatient for the arrest. When you see just how deep, how wide, and how completely entrenched they are. Look at what these judges are doing right now. How horrible would it be if we finally got name your biggest villain, name the biggest villain. We finally got them arrested, and only to have one of these judges not just throw the case out, but what if they dismiss it and dismiss it with prejudice? He can't be charged again. That would double jeopardy, or jeopardy would have applied. So what happens then? So I think part of what's happening right now with all these judges, and by the way, have you seen some of the pictures of all of those judges that are all in this group right now? They're all part of this fraternity / sorority, and they're all kind of in lockstep doing these crazy things, crazy rulings, and things that are just completely out of the legal norm. But they all know each other, and they're all buddies. And some of them, I know this will come back to haunt us, some of them are members of the Skull and Bones Society.
Huh.
You remember them, don't you? George Bush, Barack Obama, George Bush Sr., John Kerry. How about that?
like I said, it's a cabal. It's not a Democrat or a Republican. It's there are people that are involved. It's pretty frightening. And to think you're a judge, district, doesn't matter if you're district judge, doesn't matter. You're in a position where you can order or believe your orders mean something, that the president stop doing something that is actually for the betterment of our country. Stop it. And somehow you feel good about that. They're very emotional. They're very dramatic. This person was sent back because they have a tattoo on their face and suddenly they're a bad person. No, that's not the reason why.
Now, we'll come back to that one for just a second, but I want to show you this video. This is what I was just talking about with these climate activists. You know, those people that are gluing their hands to the floor or to the sidewalk, the raceways. They, by the way, they did glue. It was pretty funny. They went out to a NASCAR event, glued their hand to the racetrack, and the guy walked up and just ripped his hand off. I don't know. Maybe the glue hadn't set yet or whatever. But
oh no, I haven't seen that one.
Sorry, not sorry, clown. Anyway, so here's.
That's horrible.
Here's another one of these climate activists.
Oh no! As a climate activist, does he know where he's at a Tesla dealer? Are they?
On est dernière génération au Canada, un collectif de gens ordinaires qui demande à ce que le gouvernement canadien instaure un comité de protection face aux désastres climatiques pour protéger la population canadienne des dangers de la crise climatique. Nous avons pris action aujourd'hui parce que nous ne pouvons plus supporter de voir le profit prendre priorité sur la vie. Les milliardaires et les ultra riches sont en train de détruire notre futur pour leur propre gain. Le gouvernement canadien préfère investir dans les grandes compagnies comme Tesla plutôt que d'investir à protéger la population alors que des centaines de milliers de personnes sont renvoyées chez eux et que des personnes de notre âge meurent en nous protégeant. C'est pourquoi nous demandons la création de l'agence de protection afin de protéger ceux et celles qui ne sont pas capables de se permettre un service de pompier privé ou de se faire construire une maison pour protéger des inondations. Nous n'allons pas mourir pour les grandes compagnies. On ne va pas donner notre avenir aux ultra-riches.
I don't care if they're doing whatever they can to try to save the planet. We want them done with because they're big and they're rich.
Also, we want flood-proof homes. And I forget the other thing he asked, demanded. We demand flood-proof homes.
Private fire departments.
Private fire department. You demand a private fire department. I don't know. I mean, do you need, is that an issue that you don't have a fire department? Maybe that's an issue, which case, maybe you're instead of spray painting Tesla buildings, you gotta.
By the way, where I live, we don't have private fire departments. We have volunteer fire departments. And guess what? It's not a joke. It's not hyperbole. I'm sorry.
Not a joke, not hyperbole. I got hair.
No, you know what? It works. It works because people, that really care about their communities are going to step up and they're going to do what they're going to do. By the way, have you seen the latest dance craze?
No, what's that? I've got one for you too. Now that you said that. Did she put her hand up like this? Because that's very close to that salute. And they're all mad at Elon. Why? Unreal.
Because they were told to be.
They were told there's absolutely nothing in for them.
Okay, well, there's a strike for us, by the way. There's another copyright strike for us, but it was worth it. Well, now would be a good time to redeem ourselves. If you would, go ahead and hit that thumbs up so at least some people follow the show, and we might be able to redeem ourselves a little bit on ad revenue. Hit the thumbs up for it. Actually, it helps the algorithm know that we're interesting and we're funny and we're not afraid to get a copyright strike on one of the other venues because we love you. Anyway,
if we're not funny, you might be laughing at us, and that's okay too. Hey, by the way, as they're saying, down with Tesla, ruin the stock, take it down. A lot of these pension funds, a lot of these 401ks, a lot of these ETFs, they have mutual funds. They have Tesla in them as one of the components. By the way, and the stock is doing okay. It's rebounding just nicely, by the way. I will say that although I was not before thinking about buying a Tesla, I am now. I want to try to catch someone before they, burn their own car down or whatever they're going to do with it. Like, well, I was thinking about putting a little note in Facebook. Dear friends, in case any of you are thinking about destroying your Tesla, I'll tell you what, I'll do it for you in a way that you don't have to worry about all the environmental impact and the cleanup and all that nastiness. I'll give you $1,000, take it off your hands, and I will take care of it for you. I'm pretty sure somebody wants to give me their Tesla.
I saw some. Well, if you do it, go online on Amazon and get yourself one of those emblems from Honda. Okay, and you take off not to everybody else. So you take your Tesla, you take all the emblems off. You can do that using dental floss, by the way. And you replace them with Honda Accord emblems.
Yeah.
Because people won't know the difference. They'll think you're driving a Honda Accord. They won't key you.
Yeah, they'll have no idea.
And park your car outside so when it catches on fire, it doesn't burn your house down.
For sure. But I'm pretty sure I could get one cheap. And I mean, hey, I'm not opposed to Tesla. I'm not opposed to electric vehicles. It's not my first choice, but I certainly am not anti-electric vehicle.
Yeah, I listen. As you know, I worked in that industry for a little while. I loved the idea of the electric car. I love the idea of battery power. Solar power sounds great on paper. There's a lot of problems with it and a lot of unintended consequences. But that said, I'm still a fan of it. I think it just needs to be, worked out.
Early. Yeah, we're early. That's all. But again, if someone's going to torch it, it's a big mess. And plus you might get in trouble and there might be some EPA rules you break. Let me go ahead and take that off your hand and you can feel really good about yourself still.
The ad needs to be, do you hate Elon Musk? Do you hate Donald Trump? Well, let me take that load off your hands and I will be your savior.
No charge to you. No charge to you. I got you covered on this one.
No charge. Okay, so did you see? What do you think of don't go to the most? When you think of Boston, what do you think of?
I'll tell you.
Not that one. Not that. No, really. I mean, if it weren't in the news cycle right now, what would you think of?
Okay. Let me go to the second thing I think of, because the first thing I think of, I just can't unthink of it. I actually think of Cheers, and that's because of the bar. But if you've been in the square and you've walked around that downtown area, the rich history that's there, but the bar is there too. And so immediately that's what my mind goes to. It is
a big wooden ship in the harbor, right?
Yeah, throwing tea off the side to say we're
right.
not paying the tea tax.
Right. How about we think of this?
We stand with immigrants. You belong here. Somos una ciudad de inmigrantes. Boston doesn't back down. We are a city where the Irish coffee is strong and our opinions are stronger. We may not always agree or see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, we are a family. If you come for one of us, you will get all of us.
Nah, I'm thinking not. I'm thinking there's a lot of people in Boston that are just not with her. And not just that, she needs to brush up on the laws, don't you think?
I think many of them feel they're invincible still, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You haven't done anything yet. You're not going to do anything. You're all talk. You're no action. That's why, John, even though I know you've got a really good clip that will help us think differently about it. I haven't seen it yet, but I know it's good. But that's why most of us are like, just put one of those people in handcuffs, because
it's going to happen. We're so close. We're close. Hey, I don't have that other clip, but if you do have it, that would be great. It wasn't the clip about Elon Musk talking about them burning down the Tesla places.
Oh, I don't have that one. No.
Okay. And then some of the other things that are fun and exciting that are happening out there. This kind of stuff really makes me excited, because I think more and more people are learning about what is and isn't okay. And so, sorry. Let me just jump back here. Sorry, put it in the studio.
One of the things that we're doing is we've launched a review of the GRAS standards, and we're going to get rid of the GRAS standards for most products. The GRAS standards is a standard that was adopted in 1958. It was adopted because when FDA was created to regulate food, there were foods that were generally recognized as safe, GRAS, generally recognized as safe, like flour, like dairy, like eggs. And they didn't want to make companies test those products, so they created that designation. But that designation was expanded by an industry that began taking advantage of it, so that any new chemical that they want to add to our food is generally recognized as safe and gets no review. That's why we have 10,000 ingredients in our food in this country. In Europe, they only have 400. And we have the worst chronic disease burden of any country in the world. So we are going to get rid of the GRAS standards for new products. We're going to go back and review all of these old ingredients to make sure that they are safe. And we're going to encourage these companies to get rid of them as quickly as possible.
So I'm digging that. And what's funny too is because RFK is out there talking about these things, more and more people's awareness is getting, heightened, and their understanding a little bit more about their health. I'm seeing people, because again, I live in ranch country, I'm seeing people starting to sell beef tallow. And you can keep it on the countertop for 3 months. You can keep it in the refrigerator for 6 months, or you can keep it in the freezer indefinitely. So it tastes better when you fry food in beef tallow, or use it as, like right now, some people they don't even fry stuff. Maybe they just like saute, and they're going to put a little bit of that seed or nut oil in that pan, or some of these fake oils like the canolas and the whatever else, the vegetable oil. Well, they're using the tallow, and it tastes better, and it's better for you.
Yeah, I think RFK's, he has it's a tall hill to climb, because he's not just it's not just about changing our habits and our beliefs, right? Because the commercials and the ads, and we've been told certain foods are safe for decades, and it's just part of our habit and our culture now. It's going to be very difficult for people to break away from that. But beyond that, the lobbies for some of the food groups are so large and so powerful, financially powerful, physically powerful, that breaking through some of these breakthroughs are going to be incredibly difficult. And I hope that he has the courage and the stamina to stick with it, because it will benefit us in the long run. And things don't happen overnight, right? We didn't get to be as sick as a country as we are overnight. And I don't know that we're going to become healthy in 3 weeks, but he can lay the groundwork now over the next couple of years. But it's going to take not just reviewing it and making some changes, but actually getting laws passed that prevents some of these things from becoming part of our food groups, or part of the food that we eat, which is known to be bad for you. And there's lots of good science now that talks about, and you mentioned some of them already, some of the different oils that we consume in almost everything that's a packaged good now is just flat out bad for us. And it is absolutely linked to so many illnesses and cardiovascular disease and strokes and just on and on and on. But it's throughout our food system. So to make those changes, very tall hill.
Well, it's like fluoride. Oh yeah, it's going to save your teeth. No, it's going to kill you, and it's going to kill you little by little, but it will kill you, and it won't kill everybody. But yeah, and that's another one of those. They did it.
They tell us it's safe. It's in my toothpaste. When I go get my teeth cleaned, they say I'm going to give you a fluoride rinse. Right? It's so ingrained in us now. Fluoride, good for teeth, and until you learn more, and then you realize, well, actually, fluoride's not good for teeth. Oh, there's different kinds of fluorides. Well, fluoride itself is unnecessary for your teeth. Well, why is it in my toothpaste then? And that's going to be very difficult for in general for people to say, okay, I'm on board. I'm going to make the transition. Other people have already. They're already there.
There's a meme that hit that was talking about the whole Elon Musk thing and Doge, and it said Democrats haven't been this mad at Republicans since we freed their slaves.
I saw that. Since we freed their slaves. Okay, I think this is the one that you're hoping to see.
If you read the news, it feels like, Armageddon. So I was like, I can't walk past the TV without seeing a Tesla on fire. And like, what's going on? Some people, it's like, listen, I understand if you don't want to buy our product, but you don't have to burn it down. That's a bit unreasonable, Like, like, this is psycho. Stop being psycho.
I'm sorry, that guy.
Psycho.
He's just interesting. He's an interesting young man.
It's funny. I love
smart
it.
as heck, but interesting. I have follow up. First, I want to share this one with you. There's such a bummer that that other clip didn't transfer over because this kind of goes with it. But we have talked to you in the past about be prepared. Make sure that you guys have some food on hand, some water on hand. Make sure you have the necessary, your medications, everything that you would possibly need. Please make sure that you have those things. This comes to us from, let me just toss this one out here. This one actually is a warning based upon, and I know that this is recycled. We've heard this before, but it's becoming more and more relevant as we get further and further down the rabbit hole and get closer and closer to mass exposure. When I say mass exposure, talking about all those evil and terrible things that they have done. And David, you might want to cue up that Snow White video. Okay. But all of those evil and horrible things that they've done, when those things get ready to drop, I think that this has a potential to come forward.
What would you do if they brought the power grid down? And by they, I mean if the government purposefully brought the power grid down. And I'm not asking that question for fun. I'm asking that question because the World Economic Forum is predicting that a cyber pandemic, you can look this up, they've been running exercises about it this year, is inevitable. You're probably saying, what is a cyber pandemic? Doesn't make any sense. Like, what are we even talking about? Well, first and foremost, the reason I'm even paying attention to the World Economic Forum and their exercises is because they notoriously, in 2019, ran an exercise for a coronavirus pandemic that oddly all became true. I mean, without one slight difference, they said that the coronavirus was going to escape from a wet market in South America. Of course, when the coronavirus swept the world in 2020, they said that it escaped from a wet market in China. You can still look that up, by the way. That's not a conspiracy theory. That they simulated that coronavirus pandemic. It was the World Economic Forum in collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, in collaboration with Johns Hopkins University. And the website is still up, and they say, the coronavirus pandemic is inevitable. And then boom, it happened the very next year. So people say it's a conspiracy theory to believe that they knew that the coronavirus pandemic was going to happen. You don't have to believe it was a conspiracy theory, or you can believe it it wasn't a conspiracy theory, it's up to you. I don't really care. The point is that they made the prediction, they called it inevitable, and then it happened immediately. So for me personally, that signals to me that I should probably pay attention the next time the World Economic Forum makes a prediction and calls it inevitable. And lo and behold, they are predicting that a coronavirus pandemic, a cyber pandemic, pardon, is going to happen, and that it is once again inevitable. So if you look into the exercise that they have run this year, I believe they run it in July. They've been meeting and talking about the cyber pandemic, what it would look like. Essentially, their idea is that they're going to have to sanitize the internet because a bug, think of this as like a coronavirus for your computer, is going to sweep globally. And the only way they're going to be able to stop this bug from infecting everything is to effectively shut down the internet, right? And they were talking about bringing down the power grid in an effort to do this. So imagine the government bringing down the power grid and you would not have access to anything that required an electrical charge.
And for anyone who doubts what she said, I will just say Event 201 is there. There's lots of information about it. It happened. This event happened literally months before everything they were planning actually came to fruition. So it was the World Economic Forum, although it's been tied to the Johns Hopkins University now. But you can find this. It's all over the place. They are not hiding it. It's in plain sight. It really did happen. And there have been other, just recently, there was another large scale Event 201 like conference around the bird flu. And you started to see some things popping up, right? Just before the election, you saw some things popping up. I forget how many hens were killed, like 150 million from bird flu. And you started to see outbreaks and cows getting sick from birds. And then, of course, the election's over and all that stuff went away. But there's some truth to what we just heard. And I think your question, John, is what do you do if the power goes out? It's a great question. I'm not prepared. I will tell you flat out, I'm not prepared for it. If it happens, we're in trouble. We're in the dark.
But see, that was secondary to the power or to the grid or to the internet going down. So they're going to shut down the power grid to try to help us fix and clean they're going to say there's a bug, there's a virus that's gone worldwide on the internet. And the only way to clean it is to shut it all down and wipe everything out. That's how they're going to go about this. Now, George Soros famously before the election, he had said that it would not surprise him if there was a worldwide shutdown of the internet or some kind of event, cyber event like that. Again, projecting. They do it all the time. They let us know in advance.
Yeah, I call it in plain sight, right? They're not trying to hide it. If they're trying to hide it, it would just happen and we'd all be shocked and surprised and they'd be surprised too. Like, oh, I can't believe that just happened. But yeah,
it's hard to believe a stinking thing they say. And I don't believe much of anything is happening organically. Yeah. The scary part is you're right. They are, they're just evil. That's all they're doing. Speaking of evil, do you remember when we were talking about Diddy and his little white parties? This is a clip that David found. Tell us about it, Dave.
I was going to tee it up differently. I was going to say,
sorry, please do.
Tell us. Okay. Our wells, there's the Where's Waldo, where you're looking through everything to try to find the missing, the person, the Waldo. This one's the opposite. Who's missing from this clip? But now you gave it away, so it won't matter. I did take the music off because I don't know if the music is copywritten, so it's muted. Sure. I apologize. It's got a really cool, catchy sound to it. You can hum along if you want, John.
And what movie is this one from?
This is from the new, highly not acclaimed Snow White, which, by the way, this might be a surprise to you. It bombed. Bombed is probably a bad word. It did not perform well at all. It was supposed to do like $35 to $40 million its opening weekend. It did like $3 million. And no one went out to go see it. Now, part of it, I think, is related to the lead actress's comments, where she made some really, she just made some really nasty comments about different ethnicities. She made some comments about pro-Palestinian comments, which didn't, land well with some groups. she made some comments about, I'll paraphrase, that the original author, it was sexist and creepy, and the prince was stalking her and just weird, and the whole thing, she just was ripping on it the whole time. And so now people just said, we don't have to watch it, and they're not. And so it didn't do well. It's not, I don't think it's going to do any better. But check out this white party they're having.
So I'm going to take it to the next level. And the reason that I wanted you to play this, you showed it to me earlier. The reason I wanted you to play this one is because I think they're trying to normalize white parties. And when all of the information comes out, because they do it a lot. Remember Eyes Wide Shut? If you saw that movie, don't go see it. But if you saw that movie, they're doing some freaky, crazy things, and they're kind of projecting the parties that they are having in Hollywood. And this is one of those white parties. See, it's normal. Everybody does it. They all get.
Everybody does it.
Everybody gets dressed in white, and it's a whole white themed party. And so when all the information starts coming out about Diddy's white parties and the details about who was there, it's no big deal. We even had one in Snow White's show or movie.
Except nobody's going to see this movie. So may not land the way they wanted. Now, if she had just not said anything, if she just said, I'm excited to be here, it's a great movie, and I hope you guys enjoy it, thanks for coming to see it, maybe it would have done 30 to 40 million its first week. Everyone would have said, white parties are normal. But nope, she went and ruined it.
Can you think of any other reason why you would do that one scene where everything is just stark white like that? Especially after seeing the recent news. I can't think of one.
No.
Here is, I want to play this. And then we'll talk about it.
أشهد أن محمد رسول
All right, that's enough.
How long are you gonna play it, John?
Well, there's a reason I played as much as I did. Where do you think that is?
That is a call to prayer.
No, where do you think it is?
Oh, where do I think it is? I don't know. Afghanistan. No, it can't be Afghanistan because their buildings don't look that good. Just kidding. Iraq. I have no idea.
Yeah, that was in upstate New York.
That was my next guess. Actually, I was going to say England. Okay,
yeah,
upstate
New York. Wow. Yeah, coming to a town near you unless you fight back. By the way, if there was a Christian call to prayer that went out and basically interrupted everybody's life, was it 5 times a day? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. But I know it's several times a day. Do you think that people would be okay with that? Do you think people would just sit back and say, oh, good? Or how about a Jewish call to prayer? I mean, would that be okay?
That John would not be okay. It would not be okay because the people would say it's not okay. They would just say, you know what, you should come together and pray as often as you would like. However, you do that without necessarily inviting the entire community to come pray with you. Although you could argue that church bells accomplish the same thing. And
church bells happen on the hour and on the half, and it was a way of telling time. And you got to remember, let's go back to what the first clip, or that clip that I played, was it last week, the week before, that talked about the origins of our country. You know, there was a time, right? But you couldn't do that today. But when it comes to this, that's a call to prayer. And there was I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was a group of nearly 1,000 people. They brought their prayer mats out in front of the White House, not on White House grounds, but across from the White House grounds. They even blocked roads, and they did a call, or they did their prayer right there, blocking the sidewalks, blocking the roads, did everything. And it was a great big middle finger to everybody who didn't like it. What are we seeing here? An epic mosque. Where's that going to be?
So what where in the world is this community going to be built? It's an epic community, by the way.
Downtown New York. New York City.
It's a big country, John. This is going to be in Texas. So this proposal came out a few years back and it was squashed, and Governor Abbott said we're not going to do a large Muslim only community because that's the way it was presented at the time, but it's back up for proposal again. And the way that it's being sold is it's a large community. It'll be beautiful. There'll be a beautiful epic mosque in the middle. And this will be a community where people who are of the Muslim faith will want to go and live. And other people, critics of it, are saying that this reminds them of other communities that have popped up that they believe are now governed by their own Sharia, and that they, handle things according to Sharia and not according to state or city or U.S. federal laws. And they'll just handle things themselves. And, the rights of women and children will be governed by Sharia. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I do know if any other religious or way of life, any other way of life said, we're going to build a community on purpose that is only Jewish or is only Christian or is only Hindu only. That's what our purpose is. And you are discouraged from moving there if you're not of this ethnicity or this religious belief. We would say, hey, we have laws we put in place 50 years ago to prevent what you're doing right now, to prevent you from discouraging people from moving in because they don't share the same faith as you. But now this is being proposed on purpose, and there's lots of support for it.
I will tell you that there was a news report today, I believe that was on Gateway Pundit, that said they are moving forward with the law to ban Sharia law in Texas.
Well, you better get there quick before they build this community.
Oh, they can build it. I mean, that's the problem. So one of the reasons that these mosques go in like this, let's go back to post 9/11. Post 9/11, they built a mosque in the shadow of the Twin Towers, and they allowed that to happen. That, again, was a monument to what they had done, and that was a great big middle finger to the rest of us. Someone would definitely make sure that music did. If it wasn't that, it would be horns blaring, or it would be diesel vehicles parked out front doing burnouts. They would do something. And I'm not sure that there would be much support from the local sheriffs. So you're right. If it happened in Montana, I don't think that would happen.
I don't see that happening in Montana.
Yeah, I don't think so. But
it could happen here, though. Seattle, maybe.
It's funny because that definitely had the kind of response that I expected it to have amongst this group. It's not okay. You can go do your own thing, do your own religion, but your spoken, what am I trying to say, agenda is to overcome the entire world or overtake the entire world with the Muslim faith, and you're going to do it through breeding and through laws. You're going to use your own laws against our own laws against us.
Well, people that do have the intent to do us harm do use our laws against us. They do take advantage of, I would say, our good nature and our generosity. And then people internally in the cabal, in being generous, have filled their own pockets along the way. And this is all the corruption that needs to be rooted out. That said, as a country, we should welcome all faiths, but we have to welcome, but the all faiths should be able to live together. And I'll use that phrase, coexist, collaborate, be part of the same community, but not to want to dominate or overtake the community. And where that happens, that you create, there are people that they're going to be violently opposed to that. And now you're going to have friction, and not just friction where someone feels bad, but where people take action. And now you have a bigger problem.
Absolutely. So I've got two stories queued up here that should bring some light to the stage. First of all, this one. Now, when I say light to the stage, I don't mean that it's all good. We had a U.S. attorney was found dead in her home.
That's horrible.
And We also had a Biden aide. So this was a Biden U.S. attorney and a Biden White House aide within the last 6 months have turned up dead. Both of them basically in the prime of their life, 28 and 43. We don't know any details. So I'm just going to say it could be a coincidence. It also could be something more. Could be that someone was about to release some information. We don't know, but we'll keep close to it. If people were already, when the aide had passed, people were saying, well, that's interesting. Wonder what happened there. That she had long handing, but didn't say, well, okay, so that's exactly it. If that's the case, or if that's the cover up, then we need to be very careful about what we say here and what we don't say.
Yeah,
but
we don't know. We don't know, and we don't want to speculate, but but you're right. In a time when everything that feels and smells suspicious is suspicious, it's really easy to leap to conclusions. And without knowing the full story, it's really easy to come up with our own ending. And I'll admit, when I first saw this story break, I immediately assumed the worst. Oh, you resigned day one. You know where all the secrets are.
Right.
You know where all the hidden email servers went. You know all the details, the dirty details. And so now you've become a liability. But that may be not true at all. So I apologize for my misdeeds, but that was where my mind went initially.
Hey, you know what? In this day and age, it's okay to question everything. And here's some of the good news. FBI's flagship field office puts Epstein case file redactions ahead of all other investigations, some in 12-hour overnight shifts. So they're going after it. They're going to dig in. They're going to get the stuff out there. They've already promised that the only redactions they're going to be making would be to victims and to methods and sources. So when they're talking about methods and sources, if there was some sort, I talked about this before, there was a surveillance aircraft that listened in on phone calls, they're not going to let you know that that's how they got the phone call information. So those things, it's reasonable to think that they would, but listen, if they start redacting and withholding the names of the criminal element in here, that's not going to sit well with the world, not just the U.S. but the world.
Right. And we suspect, based on some of the names that have been in the news many times in the last several years, these are big names. These are big personalities who are in key roles, key global roles that are being implicated amongst all the Hollywood folks that are in there as well. But there's a lot of people that have a lot to lose if their names are brought forward as perpetrators, perps.
Yeah. This is going to be very ugly. And when this comes out, that is one of those things that could trigger that cyber pandemic, if you will. I'm telling you, there's going to be something. It could be short-lived because I think that they're planning for it. I think that, if someone else is planning for it, if the bad guys are planning for it, then the good guys know that it's coming and they have a counter for it. Do they have the tapes and evidence? Yeah, they absolutely do. There was 47,000 hours of evidence in Diddy's place alone. And Epstein had 3 different locations and years and years and years of taped evidence.
Diddy's still in jail, by the way. Diddy's still in jail. They didn't let him out.
And they haven't unalived him yet.
He's not unalived, and they didn't let him out. Clearly, they have enough evidence to say, yep, he's not going anywhere. Now we just need to see it. The public needs to see it, amongst other things, amongst Michelle Wu having to actually, bend the knee to the law, bend the knee to our federal law.
I'm going to share a video with you. It's another Instagram video. So I'm going to do a hard cut to this one. And hopefully we can catch it from the beginning this time. You can see the behind the scenes, how Scott does this.
Come on, Scott. Just gave you a raise. Get her done.
I can sign up. Oh.
Tariffs are on.
But here's the truth they're not telling you. The tariffs that Canada levies and impose right now on U.S. products, this is not new. It's been predating Trump. Milk, 270% tariff. Cheese, 245%. Butter, 298%. Chicken, 238%. Sausages, 69.9%. Lol. Copper, 48% tariffs. Aluminum, 45% tariffs. Steel, 25% tariffs. We tariff their metals more than they tariff ours. You know, cars, 45%. TVs, 45%. Eggs, 163%.
How does that work for tariffing American cars? Usually tariffs are to protect like your own industry, but we don't have any Canadian car manufacturers.
I don't think they give a fuck.
Canadians love to shit on Americans, but the hypocrisy is uncanny. All these tariffs have been online from way before Trump. Sure, a lot of it has to do with supply management, and they're based on quotas. It does not absolve the fact that we tariff American goods. We are not for free trade, absolutely not. If not, we would flood the market with American products. In the end, this is nothing more than another hidden tax. Our industries cannot compete with the American industries, so the real loser is the consumer, the Canadian consumer, who ends up paying a higher price. Now the question becomes, why aren't our industries competitive? And that could be taxes, regulations, or just overall poor economic environment. But
how about that?
Yep. I have seen those tariffs before. So, you know, when Trump says, you know, Canada has been tariffing the heck out of the US for a long time, and that's your economic, we're bullying your economy. We don't want to do that anymore. And one of the ways that we're not going to do that anymore is, you know, we're going to tariff goods that you buy from us. And oh, that's unfair. And well, so I asked my friends I have some Canadian friends that I work with, and I asked them, like, well, how do you think about it? And what they're hearing, and this may be true, John, I haven't looked into this, is that because many of these goods are subsidized in the US, chicken, egg farms are subsidized, and beef and milk are subsidized, and steel is subsidized. I don't think steel is subsidized. Steel is subsidized, and copper is subsidized, and cars are subsidized, and therefore the Canadians can't compete for some of those same things. And so therefore, to even the playing field, they add the tariffs, and that evens things out so that Canadian dairy farmers can compete with US dairy farmers. I don't know. It might be true. I don't know.
It doesn't add up. Doesn't add
up.
I want to go back to this one.
I'm trying to walk the middle of the road, but honestly, I don't think it adds up.
So, Marie, I'm just going to jump back to this one real quick because it deserves an answer. So there's no question of who, and why aren't they arrested yet? Again, it goes back to there are several pieces in place. I think that some of this, they don't want to get out into court because it will alert other people. Some of it is the venues that they would be taken to court in. And if the judges in those venues are radical, ridiculous people, then these people will get off.
Yeah.
They will end up dismissing the cases, and they'll make it so that jeopardy has applied, which means you cannot retry them once you get a better or a real judge. So they're going to work to clean that out. I think that part of what you're seeing right now with these ridiculous judges and the judgments that are coming out is exposure. I think they're trying to find the rest of them. I think they're also cleaning out the FBI. I mean, if there are people in the FBI or the Southern District of New York, then I think that those folks have got to be cleaned out.
Yeah, I've said this many times. I'm as impatient as probably most of the people that are paying attention as well. But I also want there to be really good cases. I want them to be rock solid. I want them when they make the arrest, that the charges are right, the evidence is all together, it's not corrupted evidence, and that it sticks, because you have to have convictions, and then there must be a penalty. If you can't put together a case that ends in a conviction, all you do is embarrass yourself over and over and over again, and we cannot afford that. So it's tough to wait. But
the other thing is, and I think this kind of holds some value as well. If they just started arresting people and I'm making names up, I'm not accusing anyone. Let's say they arrest Tom Hanks and Rita Hanks and all of LeBron James. They start arresting those people. Those are some famous people with a big following. And if you arrest them without first giving the information, you can't just say, well, we've got them on tape doing this. They're not going to show you the tapes, by the way. They just won't.
They can't.
That would be distribution of child, you know what? You're not going to do that. So because they can't do that, it has been years now. You're absolutely right. The problem is The problem is those people, yeah, they have videotape with solid evidence. But if you have a corrupt judge, these judges don't give a flip. Look at these laws that they're putting out. The president of the United States is the commander-in-chief of the military. And we have district court judges telling the military what to do. There's a Pete Hegseth video clip out there.
I was going to say, did you see his response?
It's a great clip. But somehow these people, these judges, these corrupt, overzealous judges think that they are above the law, that they are the law. In fact, this Bogsart, or whatever the guy's name was, said that the J6 people were getting off too easy and that they needed to be new laws drafted to give the punishment that they truly deserve. You kidding me? These people went in the Capitol and walked around. What punishment on the books isn't that isn't strong enough for you?
Well, and some of the people were, okay. I just have to say, Pete Hegseth, it's brilliant. I don't have the exact copy, but he basically said to the judge, since you're smart enough, you think you're smart enough and you're in the right position where you can give direction about the U.S. military. Now I need you to show up at Fort Benning at 0600 to instruct our Army Rangers on how to execute high-value target raids, and on and on and on. This is perfect. You know what, Judge? You're that guy. Then you need to show up on time, be in uniform, and start the instruction. You better get it right.
Breaking news: Donald Trump said that, and this was tonight, about 2 hours ago. He said Oswald was helped with the unaliving of JFK. So that's all he said. He didn't give it much more than that. But anyway, Marie, I'm with you. I really am with you, and I think that I don't think it's been backshelved. I think that there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes. I think that some of these people are probably being contacted. If, let's just say, they went there and observed, they didn't actually participate. It's still a crime. It's still punishable by prison time. But if they just went there and observed, maybe they're going after them to say, collaborate all these different people. We want you to be an active witness in these cases. I don't know. But I do know that the sheer number of people that we're talking about, if you've looked through the logs, this is probably, and some of the stuff we don't even know about, and some of it we'll never know about. And Marie, some of this I will talk to you about offline. Some of this stuff is so horrendous and so vile, we'll never even know about it. And to prosecute those will be very difficult as well. Not as if you can't do it, but it's going to be a hard job to do it because of the nature of the crimes themselves.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, or was it last week, David had brought me a really cool clip from JFK. Can I move on to this one, David? Or
Yeah, I was going to say, let's move on.
I think we can end with this one if you are good with that. David had sent me a video clip from JFK, and I found another one, and this one is an outstanding clip. This one, JFK is talking about how it's just not compatible with U.S. life to have everything be a secret, to hide everything from the public. And I just we'll just let him use his own words because he does it much better than I could.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask, every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War in short. With a wartime discipline, no democracy would ever hope or wish to match.
This is how to get in shape fast.
If you want to drop this, start eating more.
Sorry.
It was like,
this is how you drop weight fast. So, to Marie's question, and that's a good question. It's awesome, but I can't help but wonder what restrictions were put on the sharing of his extramarital activity. Knowing what we know about what happened to Nixon, I wonder just how prevalent his extramarital activity was. Now, I'm not questioning his, we'll call it romance, his affair with Marilyn Monroe. That's widely publicized. Yeah. But, there was a lot of other things that they said about Kennedy that may or may not be true. And again, remember who these people are that hated him so much that they had him taken out. So again, I'm certainly wouldn't excuse the man's proclivities. However, I question the veracity of those proclivities. How about that? Big word, Nick, on just our take. Guys, I'm going to bring you a thesaurus for Wednesday night because we got lots of big words coming on Wednesday night too. And we got some big guests too. I've already confirmed with neighbor Mike and my friend from law enforcement. He was our very first guest. And David, it was episode 3. Episode 3 was our.
I remember that. Yeah.
My friend Mike. He's going to come on for a bit and just kind of let us know what's going on in his world and just kind of give a quick recap. A couple others, I think that we have Mrs. John's going to come on and talk to us a little bit. I asked producer Marie to give us a couple minutes on the air, and I know that she would love to because that's the kind of producer she is. But
and you know, yeah, and I think, John, as we start to see the Department of Education thing is really interesting because it touches families across the country, and there is some fear and a lot of misinformation, as you can imagine. It would be good if, and I think producer Marie could definitely be a help for us, but it would be good for us to see, are there people that are in the education community that can speak about if there's an impact that they are directly expecting to experience or are experiencing. It might be good to keep tabs on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's actually probably a good thing that I didn't have that one clip. It is a little bit of a long one, and it's a long one, and it would have made us even much further over time as we are right now. But we'll save it. We'll definitely do it again. Anything else to add for the good of the show?
No, not for tonight. Bring the arrests. That's it. Nothing more for tonight.
I'm with you. Thank you very much, everybody. We're glad that you came with us along this journey. We're so excited for Wednesday night, episode 100, right here on Just Our Takes, 7 p.m. Pacific.
What will we do with this moment?
Good night, all.
How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? The sweet emotion raining all over me.
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
American rock and roll.